What made the high school legend become a legend? When I was in 11th grade, a guy a year older than me, in grade 12, saved a grade 9 girl from being abducted by her estranged father in the school parking lot. Her dad hadn't been in her life for years and had previously tried to take her from her elementary school. This being her first year in high school, I guess he tried again. The 12th grader heard her scream as her dad tried to force her into his car, and he ran over and got involved, apparently punching the dad before the dad got back in his car and sped off. Guy was a legit hero at the school. Our legend was actually the gym teacher. He became a legend by getting hit by a bus, getting up, getting on the bus, and asking if everyone was okay. He ended up getting fired about 5 years after I graduated because he was caught soaking raisins in vodka and then eating them over the course of a day. Never change, Mr. Lev. There was this girl Kelly who was very tiny, quiet, and seemingly well-mannered. Very unassuming girl. I don't think anyone knew who she was big school until she was escorted off campus by the police for stealing the credit card information of 14 students and going on a shopping spree. She disappeared for a year before somehow being allowed back in for her senior year. Instead of being a pariah, this girl somehow became a damn meme. Free Kelly posters would pop up with her mugshot on them. Her name was incorporated into chants used at football games, like she was a weapon that could be used against the opposing team. And she was at the top of everyone's party invite list. His last name was Alcock and he ran for student council. His campaign posters consisted simply of his slogan, "Part man, part machine, Alcock." Did he win? Administration made him take down all the signs. Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like, this guy would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an abrola in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks if I can punch you in the stomach and make you flinch. The entire class gets a 100 on the quiz. My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz. But Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want a ducking mess with. In my first year of high school, someone ran for student body president and covered the entire school with posters saying "Vote for name." He's a cunning linguist. By the end of the first day all the posters were down, and he was told he was no longer allowed to run in student council elections. He won as a write-in candidate, but was not allowed to serve. Legend. He wore a kilt to school in a fairly small town. It was 1986. Joe Sticker, class of 1969 at my HS. The guy didn't exist. He was created by a group of my friends as a mid-year transfer student with a totally fabricated deep background that was so smooth Joe even made the yearbook with a picture unavailable caption. Halfway through my last year of high school, someone managed to put a ceramic toilet on top of our multi-story gymnasium. I have no idea how that feat was achieved. The school staff didn't know either, nor could they figure out how to get it off the roof once they found it. As a result, it remained on the gym for the remainder of my time there. I never found out who did it, but I will admire them until my dying day. It's pretty stupid, but a friend wore a Walmart hot dog costume, and for some reason everyone thought it was funny. Started chanting "Hot Dog Kid," and he won the best Halloween costume award of that year. Next year he wore a penguin costume, and as he stepped up on stage he ripped it off to reveal the hot dog costume underneath. Everybody ducking lost it. Sadly, we have a rule that you can't win 2 years in a row, so while he didn't get the prize, we all knew who had the best costume that day. That is how the legend of Hot Dog Kid was born at my high school. 3 kids at my high school literally saved a baby's life by lifting up a car off of a child that got ran over and had its head pinned under the axle. The baby would have died had they not showed up. Those kids were hailed as heroes, and if I recall, Good Morning America offered to fly them to New York for interviews, but they declined. Someone installed games onto the school's server. There were a bunch of N64 emulators, Pickle, and some other games. But then there were also LAN games that could be played against everyone in the school, including Counter-Strike and Halo. Sometimes you'd go on and there'd be no one. Other times there'd be 10v10 fight in Blood Gulch. It lasted at least 10 years, but don't know if it has been taken down since. In 9th grade, one of our teachers got sick, so we got a sub. And this kid just starts talking in a strong Spaniard accent like super well, and convinces the teacher he is from Spain. And he talks this way for 3 months. It was hilarious. And when another kid tried talking as a Spaniard too, he got really upset and accused the other kid of mocking his culture, etc. Then when the year ended, we had to do a presentation and our teacher who got sick came. So the kid just nodded through the whole presentation while his group mates talked. It was hilarious. My brother ran into the statue of our high school mascot with his truck at night, knocked the bulldog off its platform, then threw it in the back of the truck. It ended up in a pond out by our house. My brother, who was a massive wallflower in school, and never told a soul until he mentioned it to me over some beers in our 30s. No one ever knew who it was, but it was a big deal, and I remember tons of allegations, accusations, and rumors as to how our mascot disappeared. Never in my life would I have ever suspected my brother. Legendary in my eyes. We had a carbon monoxide leak at my high school one day in which the entire school was evacuated to the football field. The leak was taking so long to fix that eventually local news cameras started showing up. At about the 3-hour mark of waiting on the football field, one of the seniors ran naked across the entire length of the football field, in front of the entire school. He ran straight at the cameras that were pointed at the field, hopped the fence, and ran across a busy intersection, butt ass naked. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Every single person, including the teachers, was laughing hysterically. Kid became a legend that day for sure. I was actually part of the legend that still carries to this day. I was one of the editors for our school newspaper, and as a whole, we decided to do an entire issue looking at the drug problem the school had. Our teacher was supportive of it and taught us how to do investigative journalism. After a month or so we had everything together, and it was really impressive. However, when the administration found out, they put the kibosh on it real quick and refused to release funds to have it published. We were annoyed and decided to raise money to self-publish it. Thankfully, my mom was a prominent business owner in the community and bought an ad for considerably more than we charged typically. She was impressed with our work and thought people deserved to see the paper. With the influx of money, we got it published and distributed it before the administration could step in. We also dropped off copies everywhere we could. Naturally, the community was outraged that kids were shooting up heroin in the parking lot in between classes and that there was photographic proof of it too. We made the photos so you couldn't tell who it was. There was so much outrage that parents showed up at the next school board meeting and demanded answers. The head of the school board nearly had to step down, and the principal was put through the ringer. After that issue, our funding was completely pulled and the paper was shut down. We continued to have journalism class, but it wasn't the same. We ended up submitting the issue and won all sorts of awards for it too. Now 16 years later, the school still doesn't have a newspaper and the story as to why is still told. It's one of the few things I did in high school that I'm actually proud of too. Not high school but elementary school. We had this system where if we read a book we could take a quiz online, ab the book, and we'd get points for how much of it we got correct. And at the end of the year, the students that had a certain amount of points got to go to this after school party with water slides and food trucks, and it was a lot of fun. Anyways, this buddy of mine would read all these big long hard books. They were worth the most points, and he'd take the quizzes, write down the answers, and pass them around to other students. And by the end of the year, there were 50 students who went to that party, including myself, all thanks to him. Hope you're doing alright, James. He copied a Benito Mussolini speech when running for student president word for word. Won the election by 5 votes. Long story short, jerk of a substitute wouldn't let a heavily pregnant girl use the restroom, and she had to go to the nurse then the doctors afterwards. Enraging entire graduating class of the girl. Substitute quits after 3 weeks of open season on him, with him giving this speech of how we are all ungrateful and how we've made him regret ever wanting to be a teacher. According to my little brother, who is currently at that school, it's still talked about because the faculty put in a rule that a teacher cannot prevent a pregnant student from going to the restroom. During gym class we noticed people's change and stuff would go missing here and there, as it was a British school with uniforms and blazers etc. Someone left their iPod recording in their blazer pocket, and we caught the girl who'd been stealing our change red-handed laughing my butt off. It was so crazy, because she was like the richest kid. She was actually a semi-successful child actor who'd been in several shows. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.